show up. Okay,
Yes.
we're live.
Hi.
Tiago,
Hello.
welcome. Thank you
you.
very much for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
Today we have a really different kind of experience because Tiago was not only our Linde School student about how many years ago, Tiago?
So it was in '87 that I started, and then until '97. So yes, well, it's like Guterres
You
said.
started in '87 when we started.
Yes.
Wow.
I was one of the first students of yours. Yes.
Foundation student. Linde School was born in '87.
Yes, correct.
And at the time, I was a student at Linde School as well.
Yeah, well, I think so, but we were not colleagues. We were only
later on. We were colleagues later on in Rua Diogo da Ruda.
But in German.
Yes.
Never in English, because you have always been much better than me. So.
Come on, Tiago.
Yes, but it's true.
Well, it's my mother tongue. I mean, if it's the first language I learned.
Correct.
And so you have some very interesting stories to tell us. And one of them is that actually you were passionate about languages. You really liked languages, but it wasn't very easy for you.
No.
So this is, you have some very precious experience to share with our viewers, our students, parents, whoever is watching. Because in fact, you were passionate about something that was hard for you. Yes. And nevertheless, you have become an interpreter, translator. You now speak how many languages?
7.
7 languages. You are a guide right at the United Nations.
No.
Is that it? No. European. Okay, European Parliament. That's where it is.
In Brussels.
So, yeah, how does one come from something that is really hard and you really have to work at it? And I know you had to work and study at the same time as well. Yes. So please tell us a bit about that and how did you manage?
Well, it has been hard, of course, and but nothing is easy. And when it is too easy, then perhaps people do not pay attention to so much and do not give the same value to things. And so I think that it was a big effort that I made. And but I have to thank you first, my mother, especially my mother, my father as well, but my mother, that decided just out of the blue that I should start at least learning English. Mm-hmm. And I was 9 years old when I started. So
yeah.
Not really a junior. I think you have lower than junior.
Yeah, junior 1. We have infants.
But I have never been an infant in English, let's say.
You were junior 1.
But I started at I think a school that it doesn't exist any longer, and that was Instituto Línguas de Tomar.
Língua Cultura. Yeah.
No. It was actually very old. It was by Gráfica.
Yes, exactly. The group is called Língua Cultura. Yeah.
Okay. But
Instituto Línguas.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
But it doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, it doesn't exist, at least in Tomar anymore.
No.
And I think we have to just thank Linde School, at least. It's one of the ones that we are, and it was where we met, actually. I met her as a teacher at this language institute. And then she just was telling students that she was going to give up on working there, and if some students were interested to follow her, so
33 years ago.
So 33 years ago, and I started a little bit, well, back in time. So I am 45 years old today. So at the age of 9, so, well, if it is 10, 35, 10, yeah, 36 years ago that I started learning English. And it was actually a very big challenge because, first of all, I was really not even good in Portuguese. So you can imagine nowadays I'm so demanding a bit with my mother tongue,
Mm-hmm.
as Linda was with hers, of course, and with students that she was always trying to teach the best possible. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes she was also sometimes very naughty, I have to say. So it was,
I'm sure she loved that.
yes, and she, but when it was about work, she was really a tough worker and very demanding. But it was really a pleasure to have her so many years as my teacher. She was really almost every single time I teach. I had once a guy who was called Adam,
Mm-hmm.
another one, a lady that I think passed away already. That was Sally,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and but then it was almost every single time Linda. So I was almost her
So
child.
you had to do a lot of homework.
Yes, and she was, well, I was her child in the end, her
Yeah.
son.
Yeah.
Well, if we can think backwards, so it was
Yeah.
a very long time ago. So, but well, but to tell you about how challenging it can be, it's first of all when you start thinking differently. I think it's all about your age, your attitude, and also how you see life, how you are confronted with, with motivation and yourself, and you start
Mm-hmm.
also respecting yourself and loving
Mm-hmm.
yourself, because it was something that was very difficult for me until certain age.
Mm.
And sometimes publicity, I'm not very much into watch TV. I'm not very keen on watching TV or whatever. But there at the time I was, of course, not nowadays. And there was actually there was some publicity. So it was an advertisement about a meal, some, well, brand, dairy brand. So dairy, not dairy, I'm
Mm-hmm. Dairy. Mm-hmm.
dairy, uh, dairy brand, that it is Matinal, Matinal.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this advertisement that, if you don't like you, who else?
Oh yeah.
And even today they have it, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So that was crucial at that time
Wow.
of my life. It was crucial because until then I was quite, I don't know, a fragile person, and sometimes not very self confident. And that was the kick that I needed to start respecting me, loving me, and trying to do the best for me, first of all, because then if
Mm-hmm.
I would do something good for me, then perhaps I could help out other people.
Yeah.
And I'm not better than anyone. I always say this, and I can be perhaps an example sometimes, but I'm not perfect, and humanity is not perfect. So I
Yeah.
always try to give my best and do my best. So as I wanted to not only English, to study and to start learning not only English but other languages, because even if it was tough and a very big challenge, it was a language that we had contact every single day. So
Mm-hmm.
through music, through TV,
Yeah.
through the radio, and one person like me, that was something that I always loved, was traveling. That well, I started not that I can thank to my godmother, my aunt and godmother, who was working at the time in Switzerland. So I think, and she always loved traveling. So I can thank her this, the way I love traveling. But knowing that for me it's very important when I arrive somewhere and I can speak the language of the
Mm.
or
Oh.
that culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
So English nowadays, of course, it's the lingua franca. So everywhere you can more or less communicate if you
Mm-hmm.
know English. But unfortunately, it's not always the case. So
Mm-hmm.
if you go and we can just refer our neighbors, next door neighbors, geographically speaking, so the Spaniards or even French or Italians, they are not that good in languages, in foreign languages.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing those languages as well as German, as well as German, I suppose, it it makes your life easier. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
you just can travel, you can communicate, you can make yourself understood. If you are in trouble, you can also react differently and act in a different way
Mm-hmm.
with people. So that was, I think, at the time one of I think my intentions as well, and of learning languages and trying to um, take out everything I could from learning languages. But of
Mm.
course, I started with English. That was, and I think that was a good step because, and then it was my mother that was stubborn, and she asked me if I wanted to go into English. Something that for me, at the age of 9, you can imagine that it's not really something that I would think about,
Yeah.
and even it was funny because they were not very professional, I have to say, in this language school, this
Mm-hmm.
language institute,
Institute Linguist. Mm-hmm.
institute of language, is that they decided to put me with a, as I only could study in the evening, and it was very
Mm-hmm.
close to my place where I was living. I was living in the center of Tomar, just at the main roundabout, and actually it was easy for me to go only and easier, and it was only the possibility I had, it was to study in the evening. So they just decided to put me with a group, very advanced group, that I understood. I couldn't understand anything, I understood nothing. So for a couple of lessons, of classes, I had to tell my mother that I said, excuse me, it's no point. I understand nothing. I cannot communicate. They ask me questions, and or they make me questions. I mean, because asking is questions, of course. They made me questions that I couldn't answer because I had no clue. I didn't even know how to say yes or no. So that
Mm-hmm.
was even if fortunately in Portugal we have access to English, especially because thank God we don't dub, we subtitle, as
Yeah.
well as in the Netherlands, in the Nordics, all these, even in the UK, if it is a foreign
Another language.
film,
It's dubbed.
and it's also subtitled, so, or in Ireland or whatever. So, but anyway, they are English speakers, that normally have a lot of things. Main things are in English, but um, that was really something that it was already for me not the best way to start, let's say, because I really thought that I would never understand anything. So, but then I told my mother, said, because she asked me, are you enjoying it? Or I said, well, I don't know. I have no clue. And I am there. I was really like an alien. But even because I started week later or something, so it was really. And then can you imagine a completely different level? I was
Mm-hmm.
a beginner. I was a starter, and it was already FA, perhaps. I don't know. Really.
Wow.
Can you imagine? They just dumped me into that class because it fitted, the
It fitted
timetable.
your timetable.
Yes, and then so that was really terrible. And then finally I don't know why, then I think I started going in the morning, then I could somehow figure out the way to attend some other, well, a starting lesson, of course, of English. And then immediately afterwards, 2 years later or something, I decided also to start studying French, and those languages my parents could afford. Difficult. It was quite difficult because as we all know, the wages in Portugal normally are not very high, and sometimes they always worked. My mother even is a clerk, but she always, for the state, but the salaries were not very high. But my father sometimes was a little bit tougher to. He has never been unemployed, but it was, well, jobs that were really not very highly paid, and then I decided at some age, at the age of 15 already, that I had really to be independent. So if I could at the age of 15 start living alone and doing myself,
Wow.
my things alone and everything alone, I would be the happiest person. So I really had. Can you imagine at the age of 15?
Yeah, at the age of 15.
Completely, yeah. But it's funny because in some countries, that the driver license, the
It's at
driving license,
16,
you
yeah.
can at the age of 16. So at the age of 15, I started already at school at secondary school. I decided to start some secretarial,
Work,
uh, yeah, no, but also some. It was like
a professional course.
a degree. It was a
Mm.
degree in secretarial skills,
Mm-hmm.
and then I really told myself, yes, why not? Let's go for this. So it was only 1 year, and then 6 months of a probation period. So I
Yeah.
could more or less start immediately at the age of 15 doing this first year of studying secretarial work, and there I had English, I had French, I had a lot of already, well, at least two languages, and then everything about secretarial work or
Yeah.
secretarial skills. So that was the point. And then my traineeship was at Mendes Godinho at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Mendes Godinho still existed, and I was really
So you were 16 when you started working there
very,
as
very, yeah, I was a baby actually, 16 years
wow.
old. And you know that I'm still, it's why I still type with this, my 10 finger,
Yes, because at the time it was a
because
typewriter.
it's not 10, yes, it's 10, my 10 fingers. Because actually I learned with this, sometimes I call them this hammer, the hammer machines, because you had to really boom, boom, boom. It
Yeah.
was really, and stumbling
So
and
you were working full time from the age of 16.
so yes, so then from that day onwards, so I was well, I turned 16 in June, and then in September I started my traineeship.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really very, very, very young, let's say. But as I had perhaps my grandmothers and my mothers, my aunts example that they were also started very early, even if
Mm-hmm.
we are talking about a
A different era, yeah.
era, and also a period of time that it's completely different today. Even today is completely different to our time,
Mm-hmm.
and you are
Yeah.
younger than me, that I know. So
Mm.
yes, I'm still younger, but at least you look younger, much younger than
Okay, okay, good, good, good. That's a good
so.
start.
And actually, yes, that I think that for me was normal to start working at the age of 16 and studying in the evening. So that was,
Wow.
and then another reason that came up, let's say that popped up was the fact that I wanted really to learn German. That
Mm.
was really the language that I
One
wanted
more.
so badly, deeply. I don't know why. For me, still today, the most beautiful language is Italian. Sorry, but the most challenging and the
Oh,
most,
yes.
it's German. So
We were
at least
colleagues
from
at
this one,
German.
yes, from and then Celeste, we were lucky with Celeste.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh, she was so
she was,
beautiful, such a
yeah,
wonderful teacher.
she was really very talented and very
Hmm.
professional. So
We were lucky.
we were lucky. And the German I know, again, like English, I owe it to Lindum. well, almost
Linda School, yeah.
Linda School
Because
and
Celeste also came and
Linda,
taught at
but
our
then
school.
Celeste I owe the German I know as well. So the
Hmm.
my knowledge um, about German or on German is really I really owe it to Celeste, and the English mainly is to Linda School, of course, and Linda. But I only started German was always only in at Linda School that I really learned.
So the interesting thing is, I usually ask the question like, what life skills did you get from Linda School other than the language? And in this case, sort of you had to develop a life skill, which was become independent in order to be able to study the language you really wanted to, because you had to pay for that yourself, right?
Yes, correct. So that was
That's a big thing.
yeah, indeed, indeed, and I had to really work a lot because and another thing, can you imagine that I was so crazy that I decided to start German in an during an intensive course.
Oh boy.
So it was a fortnight, an intensive fortnight day, and so in the morning and in the afternoon, a fortnight every single day learning the first year of German. Because what I felt is that I was already too old to start learning a language. So
Hmm.
it was the point. I said, okay, let let's do it immediately. The first year during a fortnight, and then let's see how it goes. And well, I could pass. I passed, and then the second year was normal, let's say. So it was a school year, and and then I think I also passed, but then I failed the third one, and then I repeated the third one in an intensive in the summer. So that was more or less the,
So
the story about German.
nowadays, it's pretty hard for youngsters to become independent, especially in Portugal. I mean, there's this sort of a cultural thing, I suppose, and also, as you said, the salaries are low, and it gets a little bit tricky for youngsters to leave their parents' home and have their own home and so on. But so at that time, you had that drive. No, I'm going to be independent, and you weren't even 18.
Mm.
And so the thing is, so knowing what it's like today, anyway, there is a way. I mean, so what would you say is the fundamental skill, life skill, if a youngster wants to become independent and really feel that they can do it, despite the state of things, despite the economic issues, all of that. What would be a fundamental skill?
Well, first of all, is trying to believe in yourself. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
most important, and always think positive. I'm normally a very optimistic person, and and if you really believe in you and you not always listen to others, because sometimes some other people, we have friends, we have family relatives who think differently, and sometimes even my mother always had colleagues asking her, why is your child, why is Tiago learning languages,
Mm-hmm.
for which reason? Does he need it? Is it going to be his future? But no one knows. No,
Of
we
course.
are, we don't have this ball, the
Yeah.
to just,
You don't know what you're gonna have to take from your toolbox. And
correct.
these things are all in your toolbox for your life.
Yeah, indeed. And I never thought, well, I remember as a child that I was very keen um, in playing school. So school
Ah,
teacher,
okay.
and my brother was always the poor one that was the student, and I was the teacher. That I remember. That I remember. But but it was only with him, let's say, that I was a little bit more demanding because with other people, yes, he was younger, and he's younger nowadays. And actually, we have never played a lot. We had never played together a lot. I think that we were quite independent. We are very different. Our friends were completely different as well. Um, but nowadays we are very good friends, and
Mhm.
I think that he's very proud of myself, but I'm truly, really very proud of himself. So I
Good.
think that that changed because until so you can see that everything
Changes. Of course, you never
has a
know what
change, but
things are
also
going
a
to be like.
story, yeah, and the story as well
So
behind. So I
there
think
is a
first of all,
story.
it's
Mm,
believing in you. I think,
okay.
and just go for it and take the challenge, and whatever possibility, whatever shows up, pops up, as a
Get it. Use
yeah,
it.
get it, use it, and try
Hmm.
it because it's going to be the best.
Hmm.
Never give up, and also never fear. Let's say, just take the challenge. So I think
Hmm.
what
So to finish, not finish, but the last story I'd really love you to share about is the how you got to get your dream come true. So your dream was eventually at some point to work at the European Union.
union, yes.
And and you're that's where you are. So how did that happen?
Well, it's quite. Let's say that we know that 30 minutes is never. Uh,
Right. So the shorter version.
yeah, it's never. It's too short. Yes, it's
Yeah.
um, to tell a story.
I will share the longer text
Yeah,
you sent
yes,
me.
over there. But don't worry because actually, what we are just speaking about and we are chatting here, so I think that it's fair enough and it's enough. It's sufficient. But it was a big way to go, and it was quite a long way, and it was challenging. As already we have been talking, and we were also talking about that and asking about the how is it possible that that it, that you were working already at the age of 16 and then studying in the evening, and it's why I decided that I don't want to study except for languages. I don't want to study anything more, so no more. The master degree was already enough, and no doctorate, nothing. Oh, because I'm fed up of because it was really,
Was a
I
lot of
studied
hard work.
yes, it was 30 years studying, and then 20 years working and studying, at the same time.
Yeah.
So I was fed up. But it was good because I think that also you just become an adult as well. And
Mm.
of course, I
You have
didn't
to
leave.
become responsible. Hmm.
Yes, and I didn't leave my parents' place until the age of 20 or something before I came to Porto to study. Where
Hmm.
from actually it's where I'm now talking to you. So the live is from Porto, and you are in Tomar. Yes,
Right.
yes, okay.
And you are usually in
Yeah.
Brussels.
Yes, and very often I'm in Brussels. But yes, this weekend I came to Portugal because it's, as we know, this story, the COVID-19 saga that is driving people crazy. But anyway, I think we hope that things go the best way possible for
Right.
everyone. But so going back a bit to your question, let's say that I don't know if my mother understood that indeed that if I had that dream, I needed to learn languages, But at the age, you are not going to perhaps believe me, but you remember. I hope that you know that Portugal joined the European Union in '86, so
Yes.
1996. So a year before Linda School opened up.
Right.
And you are not going really perhaps to believe it, but I was not even 11 years old, and I was already singing the anthem, the ode
Wow.
of joy, and all the thing and the importance of being together and togetherness and multiculturalism and multilingualism and otherness and the, all the doors that were open to our country, to
Hmm.
our to a country that was under dictatorship, 12 years before, still.
Yeah.
So we only became in the really, I mean, independent, but we were democratic 12 years before only, so
Hmm.
it was 48 years under the dictatorship. A lot of people have no, sometimes they don't think that even
Yeah.
our democracy is younger than our dictatorship still. So
Yeah.
and for me that was, everything, liberty, freedom, and I was only 10, almost 11 years old when when Portugal joined the European Union. And since then, I don't know, it was always my dream, really, that one day I could make part of it, or at least give some part of myself and working there. Some people go there only because of the salaries. There are a bit better salaries, of course. Some others for the importance, some others for, because it's chic, or because it's so fancy, or because it's so important, and we are important VIPs, that working
Hmm.
for an European institution. For me, was really the project itself. So
Hmm.
peace, peace, love, prosperity, respect, otherness, multilingualism, multiculturalism, or multiculturalism, whatever you want to
Hmm.
say. So, and I think that was the main issue, or the main reason. I mean, that really made me think that if I want this, I have to run for it. I don't have to go for it. I have to run for it.
Wow.
And I really, I think that I somewhere in my mind, nowadays I have, as you can see, much less hair than before. You know that the years I study and I worked, they are somewhere here, especially with a lot of whiteys, but but anyway, I think that was my goal, was really to achieve what I always
Dreamt
dreamed
of.
or
Yeah.
dreamt about. And well, I made it, I did it. So I
But
don't,
the
I
interesting
don't
thing
know if,
is, you didn't have any friends in there or anything. You just went for it, and you passed the first interview, the second interview, testing this, that, the other,
yes,
and it was just a pure trust. This is what I want. This is what I'm going for. And whatever. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
you never know. You didn't know if you were going to get in or not, but you
yes. And
did.
well, something that I really, when I sent you I knew that you were going to tell me, Tiago, you are totally nuts. You are going crazy. But how is it possible that you send me like, a, a book? That is a book. What you sent me? The big story I sent you. But I said, but I don't know if I was, I don't know, in the
You were
mood.
inspired in
I
that
was
moment.
I
So
was in
that's
the
why I'm
mood.
going to share it. I mean, it's a pity to just keep it in my email.
And then I said, well, I was in the mood, or is inspired indeed, because
Because I
sometimes,
asked for
and
like a short 100-word bio,
yes,
and
and then
Tiago just
I paid
sent
no
me
attention. Indeed. But
beautiful
yeah, but anyway, there you can see, well,
details.
other points, details about
Yeah,
my professional life, my
and
academic life,
I will share
my
it right
personal life,
after our
perhaps as
interview.
well, yes, when you can, and if you
I
can,
didn't
or
share it before, otherwise people wouldn't have to listen to our interview.
that wouldn't be so nice indeed. But it's always different because
Of
we
course it
speak
is.
about other things, and
Yeah, things
uh,
that are not there.
yeah. But to tell you that indeed, also the what I was perhaps lucky during my professional life as well as academic life is that um, as I told you as well, that if we can grab everything and try out everything that pops up and that you think that it's going to help you out, you take always something from it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did afterwards, I decided to carry on studying in the evening, but also I could do through the so it was called yeah, so the Instituto Profissional,
Mm-hmm.
so the professional institute, if we can translate like that. So I did the 12th secondary school or secondary year there, for instance, and then it was when I could, get into university afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the possibility, because it was one part was really studying, and the other part was also practicing. So it was
Mm-hmm.
a practical and study course, So and then that gave me as well the possibility of really learning a lot, and that at the time it doesn't exist anymore, at least in Portugal. So it was a company that existed. So it was public construction and building, and there I learned a lot. I worked there from the age of 16, almost 17, until the age of 21. So 2021. So it was at least 5 years of my life, and I learned a lot there. I really learned a lot, and it helped me out afterwards for the studies that came afterwards at university. It was a polytechnic. I always say university because poly- in
Mm-hmm.
some countries polytechnics really do not exist. So
Mm-hmm.
I always say, well,
Yeah.
but at college, we can also say college. But that I also can, I also, if I am if I can help out someone to think about their professional and future lives and their academic, I think that sometimes your work, your professional, what you do, your job
Mm-hmm.
help you out with your studies as well in a different way. So it was the same when I started to use languages at work,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, and also because afterwards, in some years later, I was already at university, but I had the possibility to do a, a big training. It was again some studying and also some practical part in IT, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And also computer science was also very important, and you need English most
Mm-hmm.
of all. And afterwards it was also, I also did pedagogics, and I also taught English connected to computer science, so that was
Wow.
also very, very interesting as well. So it has been really step by step, and I think that we cannot, one thing that I also can say here, let's say, and if I can be of some inspiration to someone to whom are listening to us or are going to see us afterwards, is that you cannot also, you just you you cannot think that you are going to grab something and
Immediately.
study and immediately and do it from one day to the other,
Yeah.
and it's going to be like that. Of course, if you have your parents or some other relatives or someone who can help you out, which is in a lot of cases, most of the cases that we know, that children, youngsters, they have relatives and especially parents who can help out, especially financially speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But if you cannot, just do not abandon your dream, and never think that you are not going to achieve it,
Mm-hmm.
to just do it only because you don't have the money, or you don't have the skills, or because I was not a fantastic student. I repeated very often German, French, English. I had to repeat some years. Linda knows as well. And FC, for instance, the first certificate in English, I failed the first time. So
Okay.
and I didn't fail CAE, for instance, which is much
Hmm.
more
Which is much harder.
which is harder and much more complicated and more demanding. And
Yeah.
so that I also, because I had already different age, and I
Hmm.
was paying from my pocket as well.
Yeah.
First
So the
certificate,
motivation is
yeah,
different, right?
the first certificate in English, it was by my parents paying.
Yeah.
The As I failed the second one, it had to be me paying. So I'm paying for it, and I was already working for it. So you see that I think when you have something that also is inspiring you and you want something and you want to just do your best and also give a little bit of credit for
Hmm.
you know, I think that also um, is a positive way of thinking, you know, and
Hmm.
reacting. And finally, I only have to tell you that and other I don't know, and other endivia that I really had, and also a dream perhaps that I always wanted to achieve was becoming an Erasmus student.
Mm.
That was always, you know, you see that college, you know, I have one day because it's even connected to the European Union.
Yeah.
So I have one day I have to be an Erasmus student, and I also succeed in doing
In
it. So
that.
in that, and it was in my second year at university that I went to Denmark
Hmm.
uh, without any money in my pocket. I only had to put aside some money because I was already working. I didn't
Hmm.
ask for 6 months at work to just well take this
Hmm.
opportunity as well. And I went to Denmark, which is a very expensive country. Actually, I had put aside money, as I told you, but we have also a scholarship. You know, it's
Hmm.
something that you receive from the European Union, but
Yeah.
it came 6 months later when I was already in Portugal.
So did
So
you work in Denmark then?
they didn't allow me.
Mm.
So what I had to do is that I just, of course, at the time my parents could help out a bit. I had this money put aside, but the money that I had aside, it was only to pay the rent for the 6 months I was there, and
Hmm.
that was it. So can you imagine how could I really well survive? But fortunately, I also had my godmother that could help out a bit, and also my granny. So, but it was only it's everything, every single penny, every single cent is enough, and it helps out. But a lot of people, even my mother, thought that I was really starving to death, that I was not eating properly because I lost 20 kilos there, but also because I was going by bicycle everywhere. So I was
Mm.
really behaving as a Dane, going to
Yeah.
school, riding a bike, and that it was the better experience or the best experience ever in my life. I have to tell you. So I think that another perhaps I don't know, another challenge that I would like to launch here to everyone, to every youngster who really wants also to go into university, because some people, they want different jobs, they want
Mhm.
different kind of professional also categories or every single different kinds of jobs. So it doesn't. My mother always said that she's proud of myself being, let's say, a person that works for the European Union, as well as she is proud about my brother that didn't go into college. So we don't have always, and every single person has to go into university or whatever. So I think that every single profession is important and is valuable. So
Mhm.
I'm not that biased. Well, let's say that I'm not really. I think I give credit to every single profession, and I think that we need everyone, and but if you have one day the possibility to study abroad, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and if it is a scholarship that you also could, you earned it, you know, you
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
you it was something that it was a victory that you could make it, and you had the possibility to, you know, to enjoy this possibility that also the European Union, it's one of the projects that the European Union really started 30 32 years ago. I was no 33 years ago. I was 32 years ago. I was in Denmark, and Erasmus just began the year before, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. And it's one of the projects that, well, that it's one of the most popular projects backed up and started by the European Union that the that well that European citizens like and are proud of the European Union. So at
Right.
least something that the European Union seemed to do positive in a lot of people's opinions. You know, I'm biased, of course. I cannot really tell you whether the European Union is the best or not. I only can tell you that if it was not the European Union, Portugal wouldn't be the country that is today. And and if humankind is not perfect, and we all make mistakes, of course, the European Union cannot be a, a, the most perfected project in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in history. So I think that anyway, it has, of course, as everything, it has its negative points or and
Mm-hmm.
also positive items. So I think that anyway, for me, it changed a lot my life, the European Union, because every single thing that I did, it was always with money that came from the European Union, let's say.
Great.
So
Okay.
that is also something that I can
So
share.
basically, take the opportunities that you have in front of you,
Yeah.
because there are opportunities if you really want to receive them. Yeah.
Yes, I think that is
Okay. This
what.
was a really beautiful conversation, Tiago. It's already well over our
Yeah.
time,
Oh yes, of course.
but it was valuable, very valuable. I'm sure many people will find a lot that can inspire them, because that is also one of the aims of this series, is to
Mhm.
inspire. And I hope later, like another 10 years from now, we can have another interview, who knows, and see what you're
Definitely.
doing.
Yes, if
And
I'm still alive, and
thank you
we
so
I hope so.
much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and take care. Okay, give
Thank you.
my best regards to everyone there. Okay, at
Thank you.
least, particularly to your lovely mother,
We will. I will. I will tell everyone.
and naughty Linda.
And
Beautiful.
thank you to the viewers. Please share if you enjoy it. Next week, I'm not sure whether we'll be on, but I'll let you know sometime during the week. Thank you very much, and
Bye.
bye.